Elon SpaceX still working hard on Starship at Starbase, but IFT2 could be postponed for months due to FAA involvement. The FAA wants to get Starship up and flying by the end of October. They want to get through all of these 63 steps. The Fish and Wildlife not as eager to get this going. They're not as fast as the FAA, apparently. They have to make sure everything went well with the first launch and there's no corruption to the environment at Starbase. A pain point for others is that if the environment's damaged, not a big deal. It's just a couple birds, a couple worms, whatever. It's just not a big deal. A couple fish here and there. Not a big deal, considering that this will be literally the rocket that takes people to Mars. So there's one side of the camp that's 100%, no matter what happens, make sure that SpaceX gets to do whatever they need to do to get this rocket off the ground and to fly it to Mars. Okay. That's one camp. Another camp is the whole other side, which is we can't harm anything down there. We have to make sure that everything is all okay. And there were some people from, let me show you this actually, environmental groups say court air dismissing SpaceX lawsuit. This is from September 22nd from government technology, govtech.com. There are certain people here. I got to get down here and I'll zoom in for you so you can see this. This is one of the people that doesn't like the disruption from SpaceX. It's a very unique area which is they're an activist down there. It's a very unique area. She said in a phone interview, considering the endangered piping plovers in the area and surrounding wetlands and wildlife refuge, SpaceX moved in and ruined everything. SpaceX ruined everything. It's very painful to see what's happened. And the legal battle over beach closures isn't new. They dismissed a case already between SpaceX and these environmental groups. The environmental groups are also suing the FAA and SpaceX, and they're appealing everything. It's not tied up in the courts right now because SpaceX can move forward considerably, even though these things are happening. There was an appeal, and it says the appeal noted that Cameron County has been issuing orders for nearly a decade to temporarily close Boca Chica Beach and State Highway 4, the only road that reaches the 8-mile stretch of sandy public shores, as SpaceX conducted tests and rocket launches in the area. So the whole road of Highway 4 is mainly open, except for the very end of it, which is a couple miles from the build site all the way down to the beach. And then SpaceX has to close that when they move things or when they conduct tests. When there's overpressure notices, nobody can be around. But also, these people, they want to fight for this area, beach access, the wildlife there, their history, and they see it as a way for SpaceX and the industry to just take over the whole area. And they lose part of their culture, they lose part of their heritage. And I can understand where they're coming from. And SpaceX moved in and ruined everything, though. I don't know if that's true. Environmental indigenous groups argue that the rocket business has limited access to sacred and recreational areas and continues to cause damage to the beach and wildlife there. So this is the one side of it, which is everything SpaceX does is horrible. They moved in and ruined everything. These people still have access to the beach. They still have access to most of the wetlands down there. There's just a small part of it that SpaceX has used for building and their operations. And to be honest with you, there aren't a lot of people that use the beach on a daily basis. It's pretty much out in the middle of nowhere. It's 30 miles, 20 miles from Brownsville, or 25 miles from Brownsville, 25 miles from the nearest bathroom or like gas station. So people that go down there, you have a trek in mind. Like you have to have something in mind that you're going to go down there for. So I can understand if it's a religious thing, if it's a cultural thing, I can understand. But there are some people on that side that are doing it just for the benefit of just to be heard. It's a very unique area, they say. It is a very unique area. It's crazy. I lived there for about a year. I was down there every day. I spent almost 300 days filming the area. I know it very well. It's a very unique area. It's a very cool area. It's one of those places where if there was no rockets down there, there'd be really very minimal reasons to go down there unless you live there or you like the solitude of being 30 miles away from everybody. That is cool too. And it's very free down there. So I can understand, and indigenous groups and environmental groups, I understand where they're coming from. But this just popped up yesterday or the 22nd. And I want to show you guys this. Environmental indigenous groups in South Texas argued Wednesday that a district court misinterpreted the law last year when it dismissed their lawsuit against Cameron County and the state over closing Boca Chica Beach to allow SpaceX to test its Starship rocket. Save RGV. We've heard of them before, right? Nonprofit conservation group in the Rio Grande Valley. Again, team with cultural heritage organization Carrizo. I cannot say Crow. I can't say it. I'm sorry. National of Texas Inc. and the California-based Sierra Club also got $100 million. I think it was. Is that right? 100 million? I don't know. From Jeff Bezos. So Sierra Club, it was a bunch of money. It was a bunch of money from Jeff Bezos. So are they aligned because they think they're doing the right thing, or are they just taking money from Jeff Bezos because he wants to slow down SpaceX? That's up to interpretation. There's no proof either way for that. So you just follow the money. Usually just follow the money. If Sierra Club has a viable cause, which I think they do, there's a possibility that money was spent wisely. But also, if Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos just want to duke it out with their money, there's ways to stop Elon with court cases and stop SpaceX with court cases. So it's a touchy subject at this point. Michael Maxey says there was an arranged Boca Chica Beach cleanup this past weekend, which includes the collection of any sea turtle eggs in new nests discovered. I heard, and there was arguments from these organizations, some of these organizations, that SpaceX wasn't doing their part. They weren't cleaning up the beach. And that it was just like people like you and me that were volunteering and going down to the beach and cleaning up stuff. I've been part of those volunteer groups. I've done it. I've walked those roads. If it's 102 degrees outside and you're there to clean up the side of the road because somebody throws dirty diapers on the side of the road, you want to make that place the best place you can, right? Because we don't want it taken away from us either. So some of these groups were saying that SpaceX and Elon Musk don't do anything. They don't actually clean up the area, but that's not true. There were plenty of SpaceX workers when I was doing my work down there that were cleaning up the side of the road. They were cleaning up the beaches. So there are parts of SpaceX that clean up those areas, and they can't do it all the time. They have rockets to build. So they do it when they're scheduled to do it, but they don't have a crew that's out there all the time. On the side of Highway 4, and this is an insider's, you had to be there kind of thing, and you have to go there to see this. But if you're standing, say, across the street from the launch site, there's 40 cars, maybe something like that, on the side Highway 4 across from the launch site at any given day. There could be big trucks, there could be sedans, there could be grocery getters, there could be soccer mom wagons, those kind of things, any sort of vehicles over there. But with those vehicles come people. And when those people either just have a lunch break or they're just like chilling, some of these people leave stuff behind. I've picked up straws, I picked up bottles, I picked up cans, I picked up beer bottles, I picked up cigarettes. There's all sorts of garbage down there at any given moment. So every time I would go down, I would set up my camera and my tripod and everything, and I'd be right across from the launch site. And every time I went down, I saw stuff on the ground. So I understand their point of view. Yeah, you bring, 1,700 people into the area at any given time. Some of those people are pigs. Like straight up, dude, why are you littering? Like, come on, man. Like one, you're a scumbag because you're littering. One, I'm going to be straight up with you. Like you're a scummy person because you're throwing stuff out of your car or you're just like leaving stuff on the ground. Don't do it. You're just a scumbag. Two, then it makes people like me pick it up because I'm like, dude, why are you a scumbag? So I pick up the stuff and then I throw it away, or I'll put it in a bag and then put it in the back of my car and then I'll take it home and I'll put it in my whatever in the recycling or whatever and in the trash. So there are arguments to be made for these groups. I understand it. I understand it. But at the same time, there's a thing, and this is part of this article too. We're just going to go over a little like piece of this article because there's a ton of really good stuff in here. This is from GovTech, govtech.com. The state legislature in 1959 passed the Texas Open Beaches Act to grant the public a right to free and unrestricted access to state-owned beaches along the Gulf Coast and to allow general land office to have the county attorney, district attorney, or the attorney general enforce the act if it's violated. According to court filings, then in 2009, state voters elevated the law when they adopted an amendment to the Texas Constitution, according to court filings. So 1959, all beaches are open on the Gulf of Mexico. The Gulf Coast, it's huge expanse of land, like hundreds of miles up the coast. And SpaceX is part of that. They're at the very bottom on the Mexico border of Texas. Like literally, you could probably walk, I think it's like a mile away or something, like a mile or two away from Mexico. But the Rio Grande is like literally right there. Let me see if I can bring up a map of this place just so you can see Starbase, Texas. Starbase, Texas. Let's see here. Yeah, there's a bunch of. Go. Let me bring this up for you so you can see it. Get rid of that. So all of this coast here, right? So this is all the coast SpaceX has right here. Boca Chica Beach is literally a mile and a half away. Let me do a little. There we go. Mile and a half away from Boca Chica Beach. And usually if you're filming, there's a few places like down here, there's a little spot to film. There's a spot to film across the street there. You could kind of park over here. It's cool, but you don't get great views because there's walls in the way. But mostly right around here. And that's where I found a bunch of the garbage. But right over here, this is what the people they're talking about, right? So the beach access, the area down here, the access to this whole land is what they're talking about. And the Rio Grande is right there. So it dips in and out like Boca Chica Boulevard as you're going down towards Starbase. Boca Chica Boulevard, Highway 4 is right there. You're like, and the Mexico and United States border. So you're like a mile, maybe half a mile or something right there. And then Boca Chica Beach right there. And you can walk down. You can literally, if you felt like it, you could walk down Boca Chica Beach as far as you wanted to and then go, oh, by the way, I'm in Mexico now. You can't because there's border patrol and stuff like that. So there are wetlands and you're not supposed to go into these wetlands in the wildlife reserve. That's what the people are talking about. They're talking about this whole area in here and everything surrounding SpaceX and Boca Chica National Wildlife Refuge, Lower Rio Grande Valley Wildlife Refuge, Boca Chica Wildlife Refuge. You can walk in there. Like you can literally like walk all the way up here, all the way to Del Mar Beach. You can walk all the way up here up until you get to jetties and then you're stuck. You can't go. You have to get a boat, go across. Then you go to South Padre Island. So all these beaches out here, they're free, but there's a park. And to get into this park, you have to pay $12, right? But if you don't go in the park, you can literally just walk if you felt like it. You can go wherever, park wherever, Margaritaville if you want to, park over here. And then as you can see from these, you should be able to see this. I'm not sure. As you can see from these beach umbrellas, people are on this beach. They can go all the way down. So these are protected under the Constitution of Texas, should be free for anybody to visit at any time as long as you have access to it. So what they're complaining about is SpaceX down here is when they shut off Highway 4. Usually they shut it off way over here by the build site The rocket garden, which is really cool. I like this view because it has the shadows of the rocket garden, which is really cool. But the rocket garden tourist attraction now, but they shut it off. Like they close sometimes they close it up here. Sometimes they close it at this bend down here as you're going around the corner, and they'll stop people around here near the Astro Pub. And right here, if you've seen that, like there's a tank and it says "Welcome to Starbase" or something like that. It's right there. It's like right on the corner, like a little propane, like a propane tank. It's 10 feet long or something like that. And if you've ever seen that, that's where it is, right at this corner. And they most of the time block you off right around there. So this will limit access for people during the test phase and during the launch phases because they also close off the whole beach. So there's no fly zone, no people zone, this whole beach area, like right around like this whole area up to I would like near the jetty. So it's pretty much all the way to Mexico, all the way to the jetty up here. So it's a huge amount of beach. People aren't supposed to be in there. Boats aren't supposed to be in there. Planes aren't supposed to be in there. So these people are complaining about it, which I totally understand because they don't have access to their constitutional provided beach. So they've been talking about it lately, and I wanted to talk to you about that and wanted to let you know that people are still there's still a contingent of people that are going to fight for this. So if SpaceX continues to do operations down there, which they will, because they have all the right to do that. They're a big business. They bring in multiple millions of dollars per year. And I think it's actually in this article how much money they bring in. It's like a bunch of money, multiple millions of dollars a year. You have 1,700 workers at Starbase, and there is money somewhere in this article. I can't remember where it was, but they do close off that road. And there are some people. Sorry, I'm just scrolling like a maniac right now. Yeah. Anyway, they bring in millions of dollars for the area. And like I was showing you, the area really isn't, there's nothing here, down here, really. There's nothing to buy there. But then they have the whole area of Brownsville. Like all of Brownsville, there's so much money in Brownsville now because of SpaceX. And it's such a huge operation that if they have 1,700 people, each one of those people make a bunch of money. They're not poor. Like they're not living on like the line, like the lowest line. They're like elevated up. They make good money. So they bring that money into this economy of Brownsville. Brownsville's a couple 100,000 people. Those 1,700 spread that wealth all over the place, going to restaurants, going to grocery stores, going to gas stations, wherever. They spread that money around. And also there's a bunch of people that are executives that live there. So they have tons of money and then they spread it around to the areas there too. So the fact that SpaceX and Starbase is there is an amazing thing. But I do understand where the other people are, why they're making their voices heard. What's up, RGV Area Photos? But there's a bunch of people that will always bring it up. And there's a bunch of people that will always fight back. And until the government of Texas somehow either amends the Constitution or gives SpaceX some sort of rights that other people don't have and other corporations don't have, it's gonna be tricky going forward because there could be lawsuits at any time. Roberto, what's up? But also you got to think about this whole beach. Look at that. And I only spent a year there, so I'm not the expert at this place. South Padre Island's huge. Like this whole beachfront, the whole Gulf Coast, like that's a huge amount of land, man. And this little tiny bit right down here, way down here, is what they're talking about. This little area compared to the rest. It's understandable why they're doing it. I understand it. But it's also I want to go to Mars. So I'm right there with you guys. I just want to I want ships to fly from here on a monthly basis. I want them to continue operations at SpaceX. I want them to continue building Starship, and I want to continue to build out Starbase because there's so much to be learned from what they do. So much engineering, so much science. Imagine the telescopes they can put inside of a Starship. It's going to be incredible what they'll be able to do with the engineering that's possible from these things. Matt PD says, I love capitalism. Yeah, it's a lot of it. Yeah. The Endangered Species Act. Yeah, there's endangered species in the area too. And that these groups, they want to fight for those endangered species, which I understand. I totally get it. So I don't know what the answer is. I wish I did. I wish I knew the answer. There's going to be a compromise of some sort. But right now, we know that SpaceX is continuing to build at Starbase. And we know that the hot stage ring was lowered from the booster so they can do some checkups on booster 9 and maybe adjust some things. And then it'll be reattached, and then the ship will be reattached once they do the flight termination system. So that's what is happening at Starbase right now. There's no road closures at this point. There's no testing going on at Starbase itself. So right now, the last test primary date, Thursday, September 21st, September 20th, September 19th, and there's nothing up here. There's no new stuff. Highway 4, September 21st. These are the things, the road delays and the road closures. The road closures are the ones that they're really considering. It's just a bad thing. They've ordered the closure of Boca Chica Beach. So those are the things that they're complaining about, Eddie Trevino and Highway 4, for the purpose of protecting public health and safety. So yeah, it's a whole other world down there. It's a crazy place in the good way, because they need to be where they are in order to fly the ship to where it needs to go. That's what it breaks down to. Yeah. So the ginormous French telescope. Could you imagine? Yeah. Could you imagine the sort of technology and the sort of just science we're going to get in the future? It's going to be astronomical. Yeah. So Michael Maxey says SpaceX orbital refueling depot, SpaceX space station, SpaceX HLS, SpaceX Mars mission, SpaceX Hubble maintenance mission, SpaceX mission to Jupiter's moons. Yeah, exactly. Or there's been talks of SpaceX possibly helping the International Space Station be deorbited in some way. Will they use a Starship to do that? Will they need a Starship for that? There's talk about that too. There's Falcon 9 and a Dragon capsule. Will they attach that to the space station and deorbit it with that? Will it be the final hurrah for the space station? Will SpaceX be part of that? And orbital refueling depot. They need to launch those things. They need to get those to orbit. Ship 26, possible test article for that? Don't know. Yeah, don't really know. So we're just holding off and waiting for things to happen. There's still work going on at the build site. They had a couple things that were, what is it? Article 26.1 was blown up at Massey's the other day. I think it was 26.1, which is basically a tank that they exploded it, which was pretty cool. So they're working on the next iterations of boosters and ships and all that stuff going forward. So there's still a lot of work being done down at Starbase. What's the latest news about the Polaris Dawn mission? Not much, to be honest with you. The last thing that I heard was that they're still going on the trajectory. They're going to have 3 missions still. The third one will be the Starship one, which will be pretty interesting. And there's a possibility that one of them could maybe do something with Hubble, but we're not sure. Yeah. When's Starship going to fly, Roberta? Don't know. Maybe next year. Hopefully sooner. The Fish and Wildlife Service has 4 months-ish time frame in order to get all of their work done to pass SpaceX, to allow SpaceX to launch again. So the Fish and Wildlife Service is working with the FAA and working with SpaceX, all working together. There's no grand conspiracy where one of them is trying to hold anybody back. They're just doing their jobs at this point. And of course, they're people. They're not robots, so they can't do it really fast. So these things that we were talking about earlier from Elon, that tweet, 63 things, they have to check off all of these things. New seal designed for certain areas of booster, very undescript. Change nitrogen shutdown usage, better manage engine bay pressure by increasing fire suppression capability or capacity by 15x. And these things that are very vague to us, add temperature or pump temperature sensors to certain location. It's like, what location? But SpaceX and, of course, the FAA are working together because it's so vague that SpaceX has to tell them what these things actually do. So, yeah, they're working together right now to get these things done, but it's the Fish and Wildlife Service. They have 4 months to clear them to go. So, yeah, it's going to be a little bit. NC Davis, what's up, man? What is yeah. Yeah, so what's the situation at Starbase? Basically, just hold on and wait. They're very ready. They're doing final checks for IFT2. They're doing everything to get ready for the next launch at this point. And there's not much left, according to Elon. He said this numerous times that there's not much left for them to do. But another cool thing that happened, this is an old article from September 22nd, 2014. Look at this from spacenews.com. SpaceX breaks ground on Texas spaceport. 2014, 9 years ago. 2014, September 22nd, 9 years ago. How crazy is that? So when I heard of this, I was like, this is going to be neat. This is going to be a neat thing. Right? September 22nd, 2014 from Jeff Faust. Yeah, crazy. SpaceX held the groundbreaking attended by local officials and Texas Governor Rick Perry on the site of a planned spaceport at Boca Chica on the Gulf of Mexico east of here. The site is planned to host launches of the company's Falcon 9 and future Falcon Heavy rockets. Remember that? Primarily carrying commercial satellites to geostationary orbit. Falcon 9 from Starbase. Imagine that. Imagine that. And Falcon Heavy. That would have been, let's see, it would have been a lot less exciting, I think. So that was a pretty cool thing that happened a few days ago. An anniversary, if you will, a 9-year anniversary of that. And there's another thing that they could have flown from there with those Falcon 9s, Starlinks. So Starlink satellites provide satellite service and internet service to 7 continents, over 60 countries, in many more markets, connecting 2 million plus active customers. And I think this is the first official time the SpaceX has talked about how many customers, or that they've reached 2 million customers. And so they do a little montage here, which is really neat. They show people using the Starlink satellite system in different ways. This person's on a boat, which is really neat. Look at this. They're on a boat. They're just on just like a rowboat somewhere. Someone's just chilling. And they're like, hey, we're going to set up the Starlink in the middle of our boat. But Starlink's amazing. A lot of people at Starbase use Starlink. Streamers from Starbase use Starlink. But yeah, it's RVs, people that are camping, people like all over the world. This is the first time that I believe this is the first time that SpaceX has said that Starlink has reached 2 million customers. So another great thing about Starship is that Starlink will, like, they're going to use the funds from all these people that are using the Starlink service to continue production of Starlink, one, so they can continue making money from it, but also continue flights of Falcon 9, also fund Starship research and development. So 2 million customers, I don't even know how much Starlink costs anymore. Let's find out how much it costs. I don't know how much it is, to be honest with you. Let's see how much this costs. I don't know. I'm checking it out real quick. It doesn't even say pricing on the front. Business, residential. Let's see. Anyway, say if it's $30 a month, right? So 2 million times 30. Let's find out what that is. And I know it's more than that. So $60 million a month. Cut rolling in, right? So all that money, of course, it goes back into the business part of it where they have to do business operations. You have to make more Starlink terminals. They have to make more Starlink satellites. They have to, continue to fund that operation, but also any extra money they get from Starlink, they put into SpaceX as a whole. So the business of Starlink is booming. So that's a lot of money coming in from SpaceX or from Starlink for SpaceX. Very happy that this is happening and congratulations to SpaceX. It's a great service that people like this person in front of a volcano can use. just just chilling in front of a volcano, no big deal. But they have a Starlink terminal. Yeah, so it's an incredible feat by SpaceX, and yeah, that's it. And for Starlink today, my friends. So let's see. Let me take a look at chat real quick. Plariston and Dear Moon missions are delays until first quarter of 2024. For now, Jared is going G-force flight training both crews. Yep. Yeah, they're just doing what they got to do to get ready and prep for those. I was gone for 2 weeks. So glad they didn't light the candle while I was gone. And see, I know I'm happy that you're back, but I really want that thing to fly. So selfishly, I totally agree with you, but I also want that sucker to fly so we can have more flights every freaking month. Like I want a flight a month. Right now they're scheduled for 5 per year, but of course, once they prove that they can do better than that, these things stop blowing up, they will get more flights per year. I know they will. They can figure that out with the FAA. Yeah, Starlink cost personal 149 a month. Yeah. So yeah, they're making tons of money. FAA keep blowing the match out, so no candle lit yet. Yeah, the FAA and SpaceX working together. FAA takes a little bit of time. FAA may be done in October. Maybe they want to be done in October. I know that. So those people will be hopefully done, but the Fish and Wildlife Service going to be a little bit longer, maybe 4 months. So yeah, it's disconcerting that it's going to take a little while. At this point, we've only waited 4 months. Not that big of a deal. Not that big of a deal. We've only waited 4 months. So the fact that we can just like chill for another month or two, that's okay too. So if it doesn't fly this year, just restart it. Restart it next year. New Year's resolution, more Starship flights. That's what I'm hoping for. So that's all the Starship news I have for today, everybody. There's really not a ton going on at Starbase right now at the launch site, but they are continuing to build new boosters, new ships, and they will be working in the future to get this thing off the ground for IFT2. And there's going to be another stream on Wednesday, and I'll keep updating you with more SpaceX news and Starship news.